The struggle is the way. I have severe ADHD, dyslexia, and a stutter. I failed my first PhD defense because I couldn't stop stuttering. I kept forgetting the words I knew so well. I literally couldn't even remember my name in my first practice. I thought the engine was blown. I thought my hardware was completely, permanently defective. I stood in that sterile room choking on my own words, drowning in academic shame, while a panel of experts watched my transmission completely lock up. I felt like a rusted out piston that had seized in the cylinder. I walked out of that room convinced I was broken. Struggle's the way. So years before that, I was freezing in the dark San Diego surf. In BUD/S training, the cold hits you like a hammer. Your body starts shutting down. Your brain starts screaming at you to ring the bell and quit. That cold strips away every illusion you have about who you're supposed to be. Who you think you're hitting a wall. You think your motor's dying, but that wall is just diagnostic test. It's the ultimate friction required to find out what your engine's actually made of. You see, the struggle is the way. Right now, your kid is sitting at the kitchen table at 10 o'clock at night, staring at a chemistry worksheet. Their brain steering wheel is locked tight. They're avoiding the work. They're trapped in a primal state of panic. They feel the exact same shame I felt when my words stalled out in front of my committee. They look at the periodic table and they tell themselves they're stupid. They think they're defective. They're not. They're experiencing a biological requirement for growth. The struggle is the way. Listen to me very carefully, please. When your kid stares at a complex stoichiometry problem and their brain feels like it's grinding metal on metal, they're experiencing a high friction cognitive load. They want to escape that crap. You want to rescue them from it, but don't do it. The struggle is the way. To a neuroscientist, that intense friction is the exact biological trigger required for synaptic pruning and myelination. Think about walking through a deep wilderness. You hack your way through the bush one time, right? You make a small dirt path. It's narrow, and if you leave it alone long enough, it gets overgrown quickly. But if hundreds of people walk that exact same path multiple times a day, before you know it, it gets packed down. It takes much longer to overgrow. The struggle's the way. Now, imagine you embrace the struggle. You bring in the big guns. You fire up the bulldozers and the heavy machinery and put in the brutal mechanical work to clear the trees out, grade the dirt, and pour thick asphalt. You build a massive highway, multi-lane highway. That road is permanent. The brain is exactly the same. When you force the brain to struggle through a problem without a crutch, it actively searches for the right connection. This effort clears out the old brush. That's synaptic pruning. The struggle's the way. Once the correct path is found through active recall, the brain physically pours the asphalt. It insulates that specific pathway with a dense sheet of myelin. And that myelin acts like a heavy-duty wiring harness. It thickens the circuit to handle massive cognitive torque so the transmission doesn't slip when the pressure's on. See, the struggle isn't a sign of a blown gasket. The struggle is heavy machinery building the highway. The easy road destroys this process. When your kid uses an answer bot or a shortcut to find the homework, they're taking a helicopter over the wilderness. Gives a quick rush of relief, dopamine, but it leaves the ground completely untouched. It robs the engine of the mechanical effort needed to build real horsepower. Ease leaves their circuits exposed, thin and weak. When test day comes, the helicopter's gone, the weak wiring melts under pressure, and they're stranded in the woods. We don't want to remove the resistance. We want to teach them how to fire up the bulldozer and lean into the turn. We aren't just trying to pass a test. We're engineering resilience. We're taking them from academic shame and forging them into drivers with absolute grit. The struggle is the way. I eventually went back into that room. I fought for my PhD for a second time. I faced that PhD committee again and still had a stutter. I still had dyslexia and ADHD. My transmission still slipped, but I stopped apologizing for my custom build. I realized that the brutal friction, that struggle that I fought every day, I built a tranny capable of hauling a massive weight down any highway on earth. And your child's transmission is like that too. Stop telling them they're broken. Stop trying to rescue them from the friction. Teach them to torque the wrench themselves. Let the heat of the challenge burn off the rust. Struggle is the way.